Hello and welcome to Spiral Up. My name's Campbell, and we're back with another Rules of the Realm with Howdy McCoskey. This is actually going to be, well, not a final one, hopefully, but the last one for a while. So we're going to do a little bit of a review over what we've been over in the last year. So welcome, Howdy.
Hey Campbell, good to see you again, and good to hear you're busy and you got a lot going on.
I do. So for anyone who hasn't heard, I'll leave a link below. We're doing a live event, 25th of June in Melbourne. Yeah, so be there or be a rhombus with right angles. So today, today we thought we'd just go back over a bit of a review of what we've sort of covered over the last. I mean, it's almost been a year now, I guess. Trying to find out the rules of the realm. Are there rules to these realms? We've sort of discussed, the whole sort of what's it called, like the secret, the law of attraction, these types of things. Do they really work? Are they rules? Are they laws? And we've come up with a few. So what have we come up with? Rules of the realm. We got a few that we kind of figured were kind of 90%ers, but I'm not sure that we've got any sort of 100% rules yet, have we? We've because there's all these things of, you give what you get. I mean, you get what you give. So, the way you live your life, you could say if you're a good person, then generally you're going to get good stuff back, but that's not going to stop you getting hit by a truck. So it's not really a rule, is it?
Yeah, I think one of the things we found out. Okay, I'm gonna take a step back. I guess we've done this for a year now almost. We've been doing these for a year, and these have been I don't know how good it's been for the people watching it, how valuable it's necessarily been for you guys, but for at least for me, it's been great because it's been a great opportunity we're sharing really difficult ideas and things we're digging into, and we get instant feedback from each other. So for me, that's been great because I can say something and then you're asking for clarification. Do you mean this? You add something else to it. So the year has been very valuable for me to have a sounding board for us to generate these things we're thinking about and expand them rather than sitting with them alone. So that's the first thing I wanted to share. It's been very helpful for me personally.
I mean, I think that's a good point. Especially in the last couple of years, a lot of us have been sitting alone, contemplating. But we need that injection of someone else's point of view. I think to go forward with ideas. Otherwise, you just end up going around in circles, really. So yeah, I agree. They've been very valuable, and to anyone out there watching, try and get out and have meet people, right? Have face-to-face conversations, get that connection back up and going. Because we sort of do all of ours. We don't get anything organized at all. We pretty much get on the thing and go, what should we talk about? And every time it turns into this interesting conversation, and we always end up sort of getting some good information and other some insight out of it. So I think that's something that we could put down that maybe we didn't even look at, but it's the whole interaction thing. When you bring other minds in, you can see further. You can see more, can't you?
Yeah, I guess maybe one of the rules we got when you go back, one of the rules we got, which is one of the ones from the last one, was questions create the quest that you came up with. And I think that's one rule for sure, that if you want to figure anything out of where we are, you need good questions. That the questions your inner questions you have will be the guide to what you might actually find out. If you have average questions, you're going to get average answers. If you have good questions, you have a chance to get good answers. So I think of all of the things that we've talked about, that hits like top of the ladder for all of us. Because then we don't have to focus so much on what answer am I getting. It's very simplistic. What is my question? What is it I want to know? What is it? And we can all do that. It's something each one of us has access to, our own inner questions.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. And then, and it also, in the whole saying, implies action as well. After you've come to a decision, you've actually got to do something. When you found the question, then you need to do something with it as well. But yeah, I agree. And it's a whole thing. If you're not asking the right questions, you can never get the right answers. And we've been taught so much that it's all about the answers, but it's not. And we can kind of see this because when you look around, everyone's asking the same questions. That's why nothing's moving, because we're not inputting. And if we look at this as, whatever, right, a simulacrum, simulation, as a, spiritual construct or whatever, what we put out, comes back to us, right? We've got to put the right question out there to get the right answers and to start moving in the right direction, basically. So I agree, right? The question starts the quest.
Yeah. And so that would be one that popped up in my viewpoint right away of the last year that we talked about. Another is the idea of, I just talked about it today in the little video I made. I'm taking a summer break after this video, basically. And that is, everyone talks about fear. Fear is as being a big blocking point to going forward, but not many people talk about its opposite, hope, as being an equal blocking point going forward. I think we discussed that in some of the videos, this idea of projecting what you want into the future and trying to force the dream, force this reality to do what you want, as opposed to seeing more clearly and learning how to navigate the dream rather than attempt to control it, which is a massive amount of energy.
Yeah, yeah. And when we do that, we miss what it's trying to tell us, right? We miss the message because we're saying it has to come through in a certain way. And unless it does, we're not going to see it. So, by doing that, we just end up again in a circle, right? Don't we? In a loop. Excuse me.
Yeah. It's it's one of those things that's very so challenging, because that's what, when you look in the spiritual community or the religious community, it's all about those things, right? That's their number one focus. So once you begin to say, well, maybe that's not the right message, and we want to, what are the real rules here? We have to start asking, what's the way forward for us? And it'll be a little different for each person. Each person will be a little different based on their own experiences in their own life.
Mm.
But like if you don't have any hope at all, you're not going to take action. So hope is needed in some way, that something positive can be generated from your experience. On the other hand, if you live only by hope, then you are not honestly seeing the situation as it is and seeing that maybe things won't get there and it's going to get worse. So you have to have this balance of, and same thing, fear isn't necessarily always bad. There are some things that it's useful to be like, hey, I think I should be alert here. So it's, where is that balance point between fear and hope as being useful, and this middle ground of saying, I'm going to just look clearly. So that's another thing, I think. It's not a rule, but that's a useful way going forward that we talked about, this idea of not getting caught in either of those things, but not rejecting them either.
Yeah, yeah. And it comes back to the question again, right? Asking the right question, but then not judging what comes through. If the question's right, and then if something comes up that you didn't expect, then it should be another question, shouldn't it? Instead of this judging, oh, that's bad, that's not what I asked for, rah, 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 when, we know the way that the reality works. Often things that are good for us are veiled as things that look bad for us, happens all the time, and even events, you can go through an event that you perceive as bad, and obviously it could be bad while you're going through it, but then down the road, it's like, oh, okay, that was actually good. So I think this whole judgment and it's really trying to control, I guess, reality. I think if you ask the right question, we get an answer, but the problem is we judge it and think it should be a certain way. And if it's not that way, we ignore it. So then we've ignored the answer, and then we're not asking the right questions. We end up in this big confusion. So I think what you said at the start was right. It does all come back to asking the right questions.
Yeah, because I think at least if your question is clear, if you've got whatever that question is, if it's clear, it's going to have to take you somewhere. It's not going to just stall you. And I think that should be a clue. If you feel stalled, if you feel like nothing's going forward for me, then I would say, well, what's your question? What's your main question that you're dealing with here? Because that should probably be your first step. Is your question clear? Or I guess you could switch it around to, is your intention clear? What pathway do you feel you want to walk? And probably, if you look carefully, you'll see there's multiple intentions, multiple questions, multiple whatevers. And so the energy is being fragmented away.
Yes. So it's much.
Because that's one thing I think that's almost, I wouldn't say a rule, but we're pretty close to the dream will respond to your intention. And the more focused and the more clear it is, the more response you're going to get.
Yeah. So we should use what we're getting back as a way to re-ask the question. If we ask a question, we put it out there, and what we're getting back isn't what we want. Maybe we need to go, oh, the question wasn't definite enough, it wasn't defined enough. So re-ask the question and come from that point. Looking at we in a way can control what's coming back, but we've just got to get to the place of writing that up, asking that right question. And so instead of judging things coming back as good or bad and like, why is this happening? If we look at it more as this is just, like getting us back on course. Oh, that's wrong. I need to go this way. What's a better question? And use the questions to direct what we're getting back. A sort of different way to look at it.
Yeah. What about you? Is there anything that popped into your head as we've been talking, that kind of as a rule or a conversation we had that stands out, that
I've been thinking
just pops into your head?
Yeah, there's nothing that's popping into my head at the moment, to tell you the truth. We've had quite a lot of conversations, haven't we? Let me think. I was actually just going to have a quick look at our videos, but this is no good, is it? I mean, where we started, we pretty much started like asking the whole, is the law of attraction real type thing, didn't we? And can we affect this? And I think we pretty much came up to the realization that we can't really 100% affect, what we get back from whatever this is, right? We can maybe get 90%. If you do this 90% of the time, things might happen, but there's always this left field, right? Like I said, the truck can always come in and kind of smack you in the head. Which again comes back to the question thing. So that's sort of, maybe you've got me focused on that at the moment, but I think that's a really big thing. Is it's kind of taking it back on ourselves, isn't it? It's like what we're getting back is, and we know this, it is our fault, right? That's one of the sayings I like, but no one else like everything is our fault, right? Pretty much. What we get back is because of how we've lived most of our lives, but maybe it looks like we're not getting, a fair deal because we're doing all these things unconsciously. We're asking the wrong questions unconsciously, and maybe we're just playing the game wrong, right? And we've just got to.
Well, I think
from a different perspective.
One thing to really, I think a thing to really focus on is the recognition that this reality is obviously manipulated. This is not a clean reality that we're in. This, whatever the simulation is, this is obviously controlled by other, we'll call them beings. Yep. Well, when I say controlled, but it's certainly influenced by them. and they're constantly influencing us for whatever reason in our perception, and manipulating ideas, and actually even creating experiences, putting things in front of us to purposely either get us off course or waste our time. Or so it's this other part of it that we have to recognize, is we're not just dealing with trying to understand the reality that we're in. We've got this external force that has, whether it was there from the beginning and actually started this, or they came in later and have been messing it up. But we also have this thing. So is what's coming from me? Is what's coming from the way this reality set up? Or is it coming from these intermediary beings that are just causing havoc here? It already, like, there's one of the first questions is almost figuring out, where is whatever's happening in my life now coming from? Because like you say, oh, it's just from me, but it might not be if there's these external beings are constantly causing difficulty for us on purpose. We need to know which it is so we know where to put our attention.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's, I mean, we've got to figure out, I guess, where we are, but also who we are. Now, all these, the little voice inside your head, right, that everyone thinks is them, and this ego, and that even that is probably not us. So I think it's
definitely,
yeah, it's this whole thing. It's a stripping away, isn't it? It's really more about calming down and seeing what is you and what is real, and putting your focus on that. Because I guess when we put our focus and attention and energy into what they want us to, what the system wants to, then we get back what they want us to get back, right? Which is pretty much to annoy us so they can feed off us. So I guess it's what is reality, right? And that comes again back to the question, like, what is you? What is, it's like this, this voice that tells you, oh, you can't do that, you'll fail, blah, blah, blah. Maybe if we spend more time going, well, is that me? And then we figure out it's not, then we won't listen to it, and we won't get the results that voice is causing us to get, because we're listening to it like it's us. So I think figuring out who we are and where we are is
yeah it's that idea of, we've come to believe our thoughts and our feelings are us, because they seem to be inside, they're private, they come. But once you step back further and you start to say, I can see the thought, I am examining the feeling. Well, who is this I thing that is seeing the thought or seeing the feeling? Because it's not the thought or the feeling then. So we learn to identify. That's how we were taught. Our parents, in a sense, were the ones who taught us to identify thoughts, feelings, actions as me. This is I doing this. But now we realize, wait a minute, there's a further I that is, in a sense, seeing it all. So which one am I? And then if you go even deeper, you'll find an observer that can observe the observer that's observing all of this stuff. So it's a number one question of not just it's seeing how did we come to learn what I classify myself as me, and then what about these other things? Like I say, when I say, yeah, I'm thinking this, or I'm watching my thought. Well, who is the I that's watching the thought? It starts to go into a much greater depth of examination.
It does. And when you can start to realize that, and start to maybe focus more on who you are, you can actually get rid of these voices, these influences that make people do silly things, because it's always the ego, right? That voice that makes people get angry and fly off the handle or whatever, and that's because it's not them. So I think that's probably one of the biggest rules of the realm that we can put some validity to, is going inside and spending time on yourself and working out who you are. Pretty much will give you a positive outcome in some way. And again, if you're in there asking the right questions, because this is the thing, right? Maybe the rule of the realm is finding out what the realm is, because it's like you said, we go to school and we're told, you're this, this is the voice is it, but it's all crap. And so we've got to unlearn that. This is another thing. We've got to strip it all back and see what's, who were we at the start before we got all this crap thrown at us, right? And and sort of
Huh.
maybe start there.
That would be an interesting examination right there. Can you locate who you were before you went to school? Before you start, because school is an indoctrination program. Monday to Friday, already setting you up that this is when you're supposed to be working. It's all right from the beginning. Someone's telling you when you can talk, when you can't talk, when you can eat, when you can go outside, when you can go to the bathroom, and you're constantly taught that these authority figures are in control of you, and these authority figures will be determining your life, not you. So you've got how many years of 15, 20 years of this kind of indoctrination of someone else is telling you what to do, when to do it, how to do it. So before you went to school is probably a very close representation more of who you really are. And that would be a place to re-examine to get some answers.
I think so. I think that's a really good point. And Lorenzo, who I do some talks with, he challenged me to write down every person that I've ever met in my life. So I haven't finished that, but I was thinking you could almost apply that to what you were just saying. And if we went back and wrote down everyone we knew before we went to school, that might actually help to bring us back to that place. You know, who were the friends you had, you know, and then all this kind of stuff, because, you know, that kind of gets forgotten, right? All these lessons. So that might be, you know, a good sort of tool to help people get back there and figure out who were they and get into that space and energy. And then I think that's really good, because if you could see that perspective and juxtapose it to who you are now, and especially the beliefs, you might be quite surprised at like how indoctrinated you've become.
I have actually kept, well, there's very few things I have from my very young life, but I have a blanket that I guess my mother had used on me when I was like 1 year old or something. And I've had this blanket. It's very similar to a native Indian medicine blanket that would be used as a protection healing tool. If I put that blanket over my shoulders, it's starting to get a little ripped now, but if I put that over my shoulders, there's an instant change in the energy happens automatically. It's like there's something in that original me in that blanket that, and it's me. I'm not just putting like something nice or warm or comforting or nice energy on. It's me,
Mm,
right? It's about the closest that me is in this realm. It's the closest that this meat package has to its origin is for me this blanket. So is there that's another interesting thing. Do you have something from that you own, whether it's a book, whether it's a piece of clothing, whether it's whatever, from when you were very, very young, particularly before you started school? That could be what we're just talking about, a way of connecting you back to this version of yourself. If we think of as window, we've gone through all these Windows updates. Can you go back to the original factory restore to
that's running
your
program.
first beginnings and see what's there?
Mm,
Because I think it's always surprising, I think, when you go back and you remember, oh, I used to really like that, or oh, I used to be good at that, or how come I don't do that anymore? These parts of ourselves we've turned dormant,
mm.
but are part of what we're supposed to be here.
And we're kind of told that, oh, it's just kids, you know, kids, no, it's just kids, you know, kids are silly, kids just make believe, all this kind of stuff. But imagine if we could get back to that point, and then as like a mental exercise, sort of think, you know, as a 5-year-old or preschool sort of person, what did you want to be, and what did you think your life path would be, and then sort of see what's happened, and maybe you could redraw that path, right, and sort of fix up and ask better questions. Use that to ask better questions. Why did this happen? How do I get there? And sort of almost, you know, rebuild your life path from that age, pre-programmed age, because
Yeah.
there's this concept of oh, what's the word, I forgot it, palindromic time, right, where you have a point, and this is what all the numerologists
Yeah.
things are into, and that they say it goes forward and back. You know, you have these kind of bits from a certain date,
Right.
they go forward. So imagine if reality works like that. Can we actually, by going back mentally to a 5-year-old and rebuilding what we thought our life would be or what we wanted it to be, can we literally change the past and change our current experience by doing something like that, if time actually is palindromic? we should be able to change the past from the present.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Mm.
There should be, if you either got, you can't have one or the other. You can't say I can change the future, but I can't change the past. It's got to be one or the other. Either you can change both, or you can change neither. And since it seems like we have influence, it seems that way we have influence, then it seems like we must have the ability to change the past, or at least change our attachment, certainly change our attachment to it. But I think you can actually change it with enough time, with enough work.
I think,
And when I was thinking about which one you're talking, when you're a young child, you were in play mode almost all the time. You were in exploration mode. You were in this place of, there's not a lot of rules you were under. Of course, we were luckier. We grew up in a different time. So mom and dad said, get the hell out of the house and come back in 4 hours kind of thing. So we were just, yeah, great, outside. We can just go do what we want. But now, as certainly as soon as we started school and as life has moved on, it seems like, if we're talking about a rule, one of the things that this realm is built around now is distraction.
yes.
It is built to find ways to get us to focus on a whole lot of things that actually don't matter, and focus on a whole lot of problems that doesn't really matter if they're solved or not, as opposed to just being in this exploration, open, almost play mode.
Mm.
And I think that that's an interesting rule, that if there's a rule, if you want to get back more to yourself, then you have to reduce the distraction and reopen this play and openness in your life. I'm saying that to myself personally. It's not up to you. I'm saying that also to me as a reminder, like I don't play enough as I've gotten older.
We're taught not to. And the big thing about play is, to play, you've got to be 100%. You're in it, right? You're in the moment. You don't play from the past or the future, right? You're just in the moment. So it's a big thing. And when you're in the moment, you're 100% focused. And so when we're focusing on all this stuff that we can't affect and stuff that's probably not going to affect us, our energy is just displayed, right? It's like a magnifying glass. The more focused it is, then you can burn things, and that's what they're doing. So I agree. We need to, because the truth is that person that we were preschool and pre-programming, that's the real us, right? The real you, the real human. That's what we're supposed to be. All this other stuff that we now think we are, that's all been put on top of us. And there's such an effort to make us believe that it's reality. So, the biggest thing is to, question, what is reality? Why is this? Do I want it? Why am I going along with this? What did I want when I was a child? Who am I? Which is, I guess that question is, who am I really? Isn't it? Because all this stuff, it's not really us, like we said, with the voices and all this stuff, but even the job's not really you. And probably what you think you want to do, if you're an accountant and you thought you wanted to be an accountant, you probably didn't. That was probably school or your parents or something.
Yeah, it's very rare. I think a person follows their life by what kids, what do they want to be? Oh, I want to be a fireman, or I want to be a policeman, or I want to be Superman, or I don't know, whatever, right? But there's something there at the young ages. I remember when I was 6 years old, this is going to sound really weird, and grade 1, grade 2 or something. And it was just fun going around the class, right? Teacher, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know where it came from. I said, I want to be an archaeologist. And the teacher said, do you know what that is? No, but I want to be one anyway. And so is that like a clue from our deepest wishes here, that we had these moments, or these pieces did show up in our lives that told us what we want to really do. And like you say, the system was designed to take us away from what we're supposed to be, or what we're built to do here, to make us another cog in the system, another wheel in the machine. That there's a good way of seeing rules of the realm. We're dealing with a machine. This is I think there's something we can just briefly throw out on, but the fact that there can be rules, or rules that tend to go over and over again, indicates a machine-like creation. And if you'd seen the program, that Newsbenders program that I mentioned in 1968, that weird BBC program that had been on, when it got to the end of it, it was describing that everything that was being done by the group running the show was all coming from a computer. That the computer, some big computer bank, was presenting everything that was going to happen in the realm. I think that's a big truth drop, that in some way we're living in a very mechanical, computer generated type realm. And like anything, then the way out of that is to see, well, then what is something that's not mechanical, because everything we've been created to, then not created, we've been programmed, there's another word, we've been programmed to be more machine like. But the child us was not programmed and was not machine like. And that would be, I think, one of the key elements maybe to take out of the whole year, is how do we unmachine like ourselves and make ourselves more like children?
So yeah, like we're supposed to be, like the original template, if you want, that got changed. And it's, I've said it before and I'll say it again, right? The statue's not finished when there's nothing more to add. It's finished when there's nothing more to take away. We've got to strip back all this programming and find out who we really are underneath it all. Because all this facading stuff, all the houses and big cars that people get, it's all just facading that they're just putting on top of themselves to try and pretend that they're not who they really are. And then this, so yeah, I think,
yeah,
there we go. So questions, who were you before all this programming came? And maybe who were your friends back then? And do you have, a relic, a teddy bear, a blankie? Maybe do a bit of meditating with that in you, and write down who you knew, and try and get a feel for that time, and see what comes up, and start asking better questions, and if you're getting results you don't want, instead of getting upset, maybe take some time and re-ask the question in a better way. And if we use that and get more and more defined, then I think that the response we get will get more and more defined as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to respond to a comment too that came in one of the last talks we did. Somewhere along we were talking about, the time being different, time being short. We really need to act. We really need to make use of our time. And somebody asked a question to you specifically, was, well, what are you doing, Cambell? Sort of like picking at you. What are you doing? And I just want to say, Cambell's, the videos that he makes, for example, the people maybe don't really understand how much time it actually takes. You see a 30 or 40-minute video, but there's a tremendous amount of time in the preparation, in the getting people together, in the editing of it, in the producing of it, and the putting it up, reading the comments, going over the comments. It's a tremendous amount of time to share information this way. And I just want to make sure all of you know that the people you see who are doing this, they're putting in a tremendous amount of time and their own effort, and often for very little reward for it, for everybody. It's the ones who are doing it openly, like Cambell, it's a sharing of information. And I just think that's important to remember, that there's lots of ways we can do things. You don't have to do something like this to be of service and to be of help, but this is a way of being service if you're doing it well. And I just wanted to acknowledge that, and that comment that came for you.
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, like you say, it's, this is something that, we both do and we sort of are comfortable with, but, you don't just do whatever feels right. Like, we're all here to do different things. So, but yeah, it does take a lot of work. I actually got a comment when we announced our event, and someone said, why do you get to do it? And it's like, get to do it? I've just given myself so much work, dude. Do you understand what you're even saying? So this is the thing, and that comes back to, maybe we need to ask better questions. Maybe before making comments like this, we need to sort of put ourselves in other people's shoes and go, what's the bigger picture here? Am I just sort of sitting here grumbling, blah, 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 I've done nothing and I've got nothing. And it just all comes back really to questions, and getting rid of this facade that they want us to believe we are. Because when we believe we're that facade, we run around and do stupid things, and we don't we don't, live to our full potential. We don't achieve what we want to achieve. And I think that's, the big thing.
If someone is just doing inner work and finding more of who they are and living that, presenting what they feel is their true self to the world, you almost don't need to do any more than that. That is it. Anything you do beyond that is bonus, because that actually will have ripple effects on the whole of this reality that you don't realize. The more honest and truthful you get to yourself, the way you know you're supposed to be, the way you know you're supposed to live, will have an impact out there. Because I don't think anybody at their core is actually truly evil. Everyone at their core has some value there. It's just, is it available? Is it available to be out and shared and has all of the stuff that is that awful garbage, like you say, been removed, so that the statue itself, whatever that is there to show. And that's all you have to do. Everything else after that is just bonus.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, that's the thing, if you're just working on yourself, understand that that's enough. That's holding a vibration, and you're being the change you want to see, right? You're showing others how to do it. So that's the big thing, is just do something, whatever it is, right? And start somewhere small. You don't have to start big.
Yeah.
But if you want change, then obviously something has to change, right? For things to change, things have to change. So there we go, guys. Hope I think that was quite a good little summation, actually, a nice little end of our series. So thanks for joining, guys. Obviously, as normal, leave us comments, give us a like. You'll find Howdies channel down below, but Howdies taking a little hiatus over the summer, so we'll hopefully have a chat sort of in 3 or 4 months. We'll pick up and see how he's gone, and we'll have a chat and touch base then. So thanks for the last year and everything. Hope your summer goes well, and the book and everything, and we'll catch up in a few months.
Thanks.
No worries.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Campbell.
And we'll talk to you on the next upload. Bye for now.